Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Frauds, where myself, Matt, and my co-host Tyler
Hello.
provide our completely unprofessional, 100% biased,
Well,
provide our completely unprofessional, 100% biased opinions on the movies of today, tomorrow, and yesteryear. And that was an actual mic drop, a literal
a
mic drop, as
literal
opposed
mic
to
drop.
a metaphorical mic drop.
Mhm.
But speaking of mic drops, we're talking about the director of mic drops today. That is David Fincher, talking Gone Girl. Is it a modern classic? Tyler, what is your history with David Fincher?
Well, first off, I want to harken back to something we did during First Reform. Matt, we've been talking for about 35 minutes now, and you have not said a single thing about my mustache. And I want to know why you don't like my appearance changes. And now every month I'm going to come in with a new appearance change until you finally acknowledge that I look good. Say something nice about my mustache.
Silence is a valid option.
Silence is an opinion of itself. Do you not like
Yes.
it? Do you not like the flow of it? The partial wispy flow of my mustache?
I thought you went as one of the band members of
Come on.
the people who did the YMCA song.
For Halloween, I was just
Yes.
I have work tomorrow and I will be shaving my mustache. I don't think I can go out into my real world job with this. But
No.
yeah, I've had it for a day. I kind of like it, but it will be gone. David Fincher, the king of not having mustaches. Do his characters have mustaches in movies? I don't think so.
I don't know. It's a pretty mustacheless cast
It's
of
a
people.
mustache free. David Fincher, is he been adopted by Film Bro online discourse at this point? I know there's one of his movies, Fight Club, which
Fight Club has.
Fight Club
I don't
inadvertently
think
has.
he's the Tarantino level or the Nicholas Winding Refn level of like everything this guy makes is going to be adored by film bros.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I adore him as a filmmaker.
Okay. So he hasn't been. So it's probably just Fight Club. I mean, David Fincher. I think you said before we were talking like this, you said something along the lines of like David Fincher is like the first time you realized you had a favorite
He was like my
director.
first favorite filmmaker, I would say. I
Yeah.
remember in Once Upon a Time Hollywood video, I said that Quentin Tarantino was the first filmmaker who I ever like noticed a distinct style for. But
Yep.
Fincher was the first filmmaker where I was ever like, I identify with this person. He's my favorite filmmaker,
Yeah.
and I will see what he makes.
I wonder if that's a trend for like our generation, like this kind of like borderline Gen Z. Because my experience with David Fincher, I'm in the same boat. He's like the more I rewatch his movies, the older I get, the more I'm like, I just think these things are better than like everything else that's made. I
Mm.
watched a movie we'll talk about in preparation for this episode, where my thoughts on it when we talked about it years ago on our initial film frauds, our first run with Mark, the long dead and gone Mark.
I don't know who that man
Yeah, I
is.
don't know who that is either.
He doesn't watch this podcast anyway, so it
He
doesn't
does.
matter.
We talked about a movie of his that I was a little bit lower on. And I think it was because I had just read the book version of this, and rewatching it, I was like, I think it's just like one of the best movies made in the last like 15 years. I'm in the same boat as you. He was like the first time where I'm just like, are these like the best movies ever? I very distinctly remember when I was collecting like DVDs back when I was like 12 to 14. I remember very distinctly getting Seven on DVD because it was an old copy I got for like $3. And it wasn't one of those like snapshots. It was one of those like folding ones. So it was this really cool design. And I remember watching it when I was like 13, and I was like, I don't get it, but it's really good. And then I also watched Fight Club at that time too, and I was like, I don't get it, but it's really good. And
Mm.
that kind of like changed a little bit when I got older to watch like The Social Network, and kind of went back and watched some of his other stuff and was like, oh, I'm probably wrong on a lot of this, but it was the first time I definitely was maybe like enamored with what a director's trying to do or say, or even like how his movies look, where I was like, these things just look better than most other movies made today, or there's a more natural like flow to them. The editing is beautiful in all of his movies. But yeah, he was definitely one of the first times I agree with you. I was like, this is a director who I will latch myself onto until I die.
I think the first movie I saw of his was Alien 3.
You've seen
Because
Alien 3?
because I was a huge Alien fan when I was little.
Oh my God.
I still love Alien and Aliens, but like I wanted to watch Alien 3. And I know David Fincher was at the time, but I think the first like movie I ever saw knowing he was made by David Fincher was Seven, which I watched on a portable DVD player at my friend's house because I woke up early. I slept over his house. I woke up early and I watched it while he was sleeping.
Really?
Um, yeah,
You
so I started off my
sociopath.
day watching Seven, and I was in middle school. Um,
What'd you think? What'd you get? Did you like get anything of it at that age? Because I certainly didn't.
I understood this like the thematic elements of it, like the like the whole like killing him out of wrath thing. Like I was very much like that was the movie that made David Fincher one of my favorite filmmakers. So like I knew if I rewatch it now as an older person, I would probably get more out of it when it's thematically. But at the time, I feel like I still understood mostly what was going on.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the dildo part when I was little,
Yeah.
but
Did,
now
did you know about the twist? That's what
no, I
in
did not
seven.
know. I had no idea.
Oh, see, that's fucking. So, what was your? Do you remember your reaction when you were like, "Oh, yeah, just stuff." So, like, spoiler alert for seven, the head in the box thing. Like at this point, the movie came out in like
No, I never
97.
like that was before like the what's in the box meme or like things like that. So I did not know that that was coming when I was watching that for the first time.
See,
So it was interesting seeing the bad guy win.
Okay.
Like they stopped him technically, but he still won. So
Still won,
that
yeah.
was pretty interesting twist.
Yeah, I was in that era when I was like 12, 13, where I was a big like initial like Watch Mojo. Do you remember those Watch Mojo like movie lists they used to do?
Yes.
And I remember I was like really young. I was like, I'll just watch the top 10 like movie twist of all time. And like number 2
What
was
could possibly go wrong?
yeah, what could possibly go? Number 2 was 7. It's like, what's in the box, man? And you're just like, oh, I don't understand that. And you're watching the movie, and then you're probably like, I shouldn't have spoiled this for myself. And I still feel that way, like now as an adult, where I'm like, man, I really wish I got to experience this for the first time completely blind. Yeah, he's interesting. So the reason we're doing this episode in the first place, and we'll talk about him more in a second, is technically next week, the Friday the 10th, by the time we're recording this, The Killer is coming out on Netflix. His new movie, the first one since Mank. And then before that was like the Mindhunter show, and then it was Gone Girl and
more
stuff
like
that.
dank.
More like dank, for that movie sucks. No, I'm not a big fan of it. But we were like, oh, we should probably do like a modern classic centered around David Fincher and like the stuff that we've done. And we have talked about The Social Network here on Film Frauds, right?
I think so, yeah.
We think, and we have talked about The Girl with the Dragon
I
Tattoo.
rewatched it for the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo video. I remember that. Yeah.
Did you like? I think you liked that movie, right?
No, I love Social Network.
Love The Social Network. And we were trying to figure out like, do we want to do again The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Do we want to do Social Network again? And we kind of settled on like Gone Girl, like this 2014 movie with like Ben Affleck, based on the book by Gillian Flynn. And I'm very excited to talk about this, but the David Fincher stuff, like now that you're like a grown adult, like what's your relationship with him? Like when you watch his movies, what do you get out of them? Like what's your love of him now, rather than like a young child experiencing it for the first time?
I would say I really appreciate his work in like the early 2010s a lot more. For example, like he directed House of Cards, the first few episodes of that show, and that was the show that like proved that Netflix could have like prestige television. So I think he's kind of like an unsung hero, and like streaming services gaining credibility, like making their own stuff. He's not really talked about a lot in that regard, but I mean, he was the first major director that I can think of that did a TV show for a Netflix, for a company, for Netflix or for a streaming company. So his influence there is actually huge, and like bringing like major actors into a TV show for a streaming service as well. Like all these things we take for granted now, but you know, at the time, House of Cards kind of like broke new ground with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really an interesting thing to talk about. And he did it again with Mindhunters as well. He directed 7 episodes of Mindhunters.
He directed all, I thought he did all of them, or did you all 2 seasons?
He did like the first episodes and the last episodes of every season, and like maybe like one in the middle. He didn't direct every episode though of Mindhunters.
Yeah, because did you watch House of Cards? Like, have you seen all of House of Cards?
I've seen the first 3 seasons.
I think I've seen the first 2 seasons. And I remember like really distinctly really loving like the first 2 seasons, which I think is everybody's opinion on it. We were like, this is really good. And then
like for some reason Kevin Spacey left the show, and I don't understand why that happened.
Do you actually not understand what he had the allegations about?
That was a joke.
Oh, okay.
That was literally a joke.
You look so deadpan. I was like, have you not been keeping up to date with what Kevin Spacey's been up to? Do you remember that weird like Christmas ad he did or whatever, where he's like, I'm the guy from House of Cards and I'm back, and everybody's like, no,
you're not.
No, you're not, man. You're good. You did that. There was no sarcasm. You did that so deadpan. Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat where like a movie like Zodiac, I think I came to when I was an adult, and I was like, whoa, that's insane. And when we eventually do our Killer episode, I didn't get a chance to rewatch Zodiac for this episode, but I will be rewatching it for The Killer when we talk about The Killer. I have seen The Killer, by the way. I want to throw that out there. It does play.
Yeah, why don't you brag about it?
I am going to brag about it. It was pretty fucking awesome. Like I was checking like The Killer. I had a meeting with a student on that. I think it was a Tuesday. No, I think it was a Thursday. It was a Tuesday. I'm lying. And the student was like, "What
You're
are
so
you?"
cool.
I
Shut up.
am,
I don't
but
care.
the student was like, "Are you seeing any like movies this weekend?" I was like, "No." He's like, "I'm gonna go see The Killer." I was like, "Killer's out?" I was like, "No way." So I went and like quickly found there's a bunch of theaters around me that are playing it for some reason, and it's like weirdly not wide release, but I got to see it in a pretty packed theater. So like David Fincher is probably my favorite, like punch for punch, like pound for pound, my favorite
I
director.
think purely from like a camera movement and directing and visual standpoint, you
Yeah.
like. I think even Tarantino said he's the best of our generation.
Yeah, 100%. Like the best
Um,
pure director, I think is what he
yeah.
said. Yeah.
So when we get to his actual movies, like I think some of his movies have like The Game is one of the few movies I've ever fallen asleep during. The Game
The
is a
game is
legitimately terrible movie.
the game. I don't think it's terrible, but the game is tough. The game is tough. We're not
Um,
the biggest fan of Mank.
no, Mank is bad. I cannot bring myself to watch Benjamin Button. It's like 3 hours long, and
I
I
have
heard it's
will
not
wa-
that great.
I have not
So
seen it. I will watch it for The Killer, but I am in agreement. I am a little nervous to watch it. And I haven't seen Panic Room, but I heard Panic Room's pretty
yeah, I
solid.
heard Panic Room was good. I haven't seen it, but like, yeah, I've seen Zodiac. Love Zodiac.
Yeah.
Really enjoy Fight Club. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is my favorite Fincher movie, which is
No,
a
wait,
hot take.
really? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to talk about that before we talk about Gone Girl and stuff, because that will come up.
I think I said that in the Film Prods, our last Film Prods episode
I
when we
think
talked about it.
did you rewatch our episode, Film Frauds?
I listened to like a couple minutes of it this morning, and I'm
Okay.
pretty sure in the sorry, I said it was my favorite.
Okay, I'll have to re-listen to
Fincher
it today
movie.
then. So this is ultimately like when we talk about David Fincher, I'm in the same boat as you. I rewatched Gone Girl for not Gone Girl. I rewatched The Girl with the Dread Tattoo, and when we watched it for the first time, I was lower on it because I just read the book, and it's hard to separate like you read a book like The Girl with the Dread Tattoo, where it's kind of like a very interesting, fascinating book because the author Stieg Larsson, I think, wrote those 3 books and then died like before they were ever published. So the reception of it is really fascinating. They're like pulpy, kind of like man inserts himself as the main character kind of stories, and the man like
As a liberal myself, by the third book, it becomes obnoxiously liberal.
it does it really okay.
You read The Girl Kicks the Hornet's Nest.
I've only read up to The Girl Plays with Fire. I've never read.
You read The Girl Kicks the Hornet's Nest?
I've only read The Girl Who Played with Fire. I've never read the third one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think if I ever said I did, I was completely lying. I've never read that book. I read because like
I feel like we gotta. Because I re-listened to part of the podcast, this morning.
Then I definitely,
I'm like fairly certain you said that you
I
watched,
definitely
you read
lied
book
to you
3.
back in like 2020, 2021. Well, here's the thing though, like the girl with the giant tattoo, I've read that book 3 times in my life now. It's one of the few books in my life I've ever read multiple times. I read it first when I was super young in high school, and I was like, this book's really fun. And I then, because at the time I was working at my local library, and I got The Girl Who Played with Fire, and it is my favorite reading experience I've ever had because it was about 10 p.m. where I was like, I want to read this book, and I read it. I had already read about 100 pages, and I finished it in one sitting, and I read it from about 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. because I was like, I could not put it down. It is my favorite, like, pure escapism reading experience I've ever had. So this like series means like a weird lot to me. It's some of my favorite reading stuff. So I went and rewatched The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I am like on board with you. I fucking love it. I was so into it. I was so impressed. But I was
For the audio listeners, I'm flexing on
flexing hard on me.
Yeah.
But my thing was, I was writing my review on Letterboxd, my high art Letterboxd review. By the way, go check
You
out
did
our
a review for
Letterboxd.
I missed it.
I wrote like 3 this morning. I logged 5 movies and was catching up on them. I wrote like 3 reviews, but in my review, I was like, is this my top 3?
I'm glad you're back to doing reviews.
Yeah, sorry, I slacked for a little. But I was like, oh, is this one of my top 3 David Fincher movies? And I was like, oh, Zodiac, Social Network. I was like, fuck, 7. I was like, oh shit, Gone Girl. I was like, oh my god, Fight Club. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, where's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo fall in? And this is why I kind of wanted to like a big inspiration for the Gone Girl podcast is I want to see where Gone Girl, I want to see where these movies like slot into a David Fincher ranking for me. I want to see how The Killer holds up. I saw you like look at my review. I want to see how The Killer holds up in the echelon of David Fincher. It's like utterly fascinating. His like best 5 movies, which you can argue probably in many orders, are some of the best 5 like modern films ever made. You can argue for the number and the order in which, if you have Zodiac or 7 or Social Network. Social Network's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's really, really fascinating. Do you have like a tentative like ranking? Like, what's your relationship with like the girl with the dragon tattoo, like his modern movies?
Well, as always, I'm ahead of my time with everything. So The Girl with Dragon 2, I was saying for a long time is the best David Fincher movie, and I'm fine. I'm glad that you're finally on board
Yeah,
with that take. My tentative top three would probably be The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Seven, and The Social Network. That's like
social
all I'm
network.
really safe about saying right now.
Okay, that's I was thinking about that, and mine might be up there. Is like I don't know. I have this is the thing
Thing
is
is, I
that
gotta rewatch Zodiac because Zodiac I
they
remember loving that one time that I saw
same
it, and
here.
like I can't definitively say it might be number two. Like it
It,
could very easily if I rewatched it.
That's exactly so my goal, and I know it's kind of weird to be like, we're doing an episode on David Fincher, but we're actually going to watch most of his movies for The Killer. I am
Yeah,
going to this week watch or try to rewatch. I've seen Fight Club enough in
we
my
might do
life.
like a David Fincher backlog at the end of the episode for The Killer or something if we end up going through
Yeah, kind
watching
of.
a bunch,
I
like a recap of all our Fincher stuff.
I think so too. I don't need to see Fight Club again. I really like. I could rewatch Seven, but I've seen Seven
Fight
like
Club is good.
Fight
Like I
Club is.
don't love Fight Club.
I'm in the same boat. I think Fight
Yeah.
Club is really really good, but I don't know if Fight Club would be in my top 4 or 5. It might.
Mm.
It's probably rounding out, but that kind of does lead the way because you kind of did hint that Gone Girl is not in your top 3. So
No.
you rewatched Gone Girl because we have a lot to say about David Fincher, but a lot to say about David Fincher probably comes in the actual talking about his movies or the fact that when we talk about The Killer in one of his new movies, we will probably rewatch a lot of it and probably come at it with like a more tentative like let's do top 5. I think that'd be a really good way to probably like talk about The Killer is like where's The Killer slot in? What's our top 5 David Fincher? Matt, you rewatched Gone Girl.
Yes.
How many times have you seen Gone Girl? What was your history with it?
I saw it in the cinema back
You
in
did?
2014. Yes.
What the fuck? No way, really?
Yes.
Were you because it's rated R, were you old enough to see it at
Yeah.
that time?
I was 18. No, 17 or
You were
something.
7. I was fucking 16.
Yeah, I was 17,
Anyway,
I think, at the time. And yeah, saw it. I saw it. That came out the same year as Birdman, right?
it's
Well,
2014.
2014.
It's
Yeah,
a
I
great
saw
like
both of them in the theater. So like, that was a really good
dang.
Oscar season to see movies. Um, and so I really liked it when I saw it. Have never read Gone Girl, the book.
Neither have I.
It's very interesting comparing these two movies,
Mhm.
The Girl with Dragon Tattoo and Gone Girl, because they're both based off of like kind of like exploitational page turner novels.
Yep.
So when I'm about to say what I'm about to say, and I think this is going to be like the start of the whole conversation. I love The Girl with Dragon Tattoo. I think it's like both from the storyline perspective and like the directing and everything about it, I think is really deep.
Yep.
And from a psychological standpoint, there's a lot you can take away from it, from all the characters. Gone Girl is an exceptionally well directed movie, exceptionally well acted, and at times really great. But I struggled to find like the psychological and character depth in Gone Girl that I find in The Girl Betraying a Tattoo. And maybe some of it is based off of like the source material, but for
Okay.
whatever reason, I really vibe with The Girl Betraying a Tattoo, and I really like Gone Girl. But the more I think about it, and like while watching it, I couldn't help but feel like a little like deflated by some of the things that go on because it's basically a movie that does a lot, but I feel like much of it is very shallow. And we can get into talking about it later on,
Okay.
but explain what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm actually really curious about this because this is you have not seen Gone Girl since you saw it in the theaters back in 2014. This is your first rewatch of it.
This is my first rewatch.
Do you remember what you thought about it when you left the theaters when you were like 17? Were you like, wow?
I remember like loving it. I remember thinking it was like amazing. That's why I wanted to rewatch it. And I'm sorry,
Yeah.
there's a car crash going on in my kitchen right now. So it is a really, really good movie when I first saw it.
Yep.
And then on the rewatch, like I'm still pretty high on it. I still think what I thought was good the first time was good again. But it just for me, I feel like now that I'm older and like the shock of what happens in the movie has now passed for
Yep.
me. It just it didn't feel like as complex as other Fincher works, like revolving around crime.
Okay.
Like even like early Mindhunters, I think is like more complex and like more character motivated. And here it's like it feels again like it's like a shocker novel where you're supposed to like get like the thrill of it when you read it, but you're not supposed to really think about it
Yeah.
afterwards. And that's
Okay.
kind of like where I'm at with Gone Girl as like from like a script perspective.
Okay. So I have a lot of questions about your perspective, but I do think it's really interesting because inadvertently we will end up probably comparing The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo to Gone Girl. They're his two movies. You go Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. You're right. This like he's always been with crime. I mean, Seven, Zodiac, stuff like that. But there was this like stretch where he does like Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl. He does House of Cards, and he does Mindhunter, which is all essentially like crime esque, like this period of like pure. Because before that, it was The Social Network, and then you had even stuff like The Game was earlier in between Seven. You had, I can even pull this up. You had The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. You had like Panic Room. You had Fight Club. Like you had these movies that were centered around crime, but there was like stuff in between. He's been on a pretty big like crime kick until Mank. And we'll avoid talking about The Killer here and stuff like that. I disagree with you like a lot on that. I think I love them both like pretty equally. Gone Girl to me, I have seen 3 times now, I believe, in my life. I rewatched it maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago with Olive. And for me, each subsequent rewatch has me loving the movie more and more and taking away something a little bit different. I am not like a film scholar or particularly well versed or understand like how to really talk about them. I just kind of go off of vibes. But I think for me, the reason why his movies really start to stand out is more of a, I mean, I will, this might sound like I'm doing disservice on the actual like movie itself. I'm not, but I inundate myself with a lot of really bad movies. Like I do, like I watch a lot of movies that aren't that good because I like just watching a lot. Like I love watching as many movies as I possibly can. And with that inadvertently comes like you examine like a lot of like really bad movies, like movies that like are either miserable, big blockbuster, like tentpole events, or like movies that try and fail, or movies that are so mediocre, they're forgetful. And the reason that David Fincher movie stands out to me is they're so far and above a cut of the rest. Like everything about them, from the meticulous like planning to the editing to the even like the casting itself, which we will talk about in this movie, feels far more purposeful, artful, and impactful than like any other movie I've seen. My rewatch on this one had to be taking away that like I think this is like the best thing Ben Affleck has ever done, and this is I think maybe the best casted role in a David Fincher movie, which is hard to argue because you can have stuff like Brad Pitt.
Rooney Mara as
Rooney Mara is
Elizabeth
really
is
good. Still really good, but then you also have like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. You have Jesse Eisenberg in The Social Network. Like you have this stuff, but to me, the psychoanalysis or the analysis of having Ben Affleck play this role is to me the most fascinating thing I think I've seen in a movie in a long time, where you can basically just like look at like who Ben Affleck is as a person, watch that kind of transcribed there, but also how he perfectly sells like charming Southern guy, but also like kind of intimidating with his size. The way he's framed and looked and is like built in this movie is just bigger than everybody, but also this like douchey frat bro, like Boston kind of thing. I know his character's from New York, but Ben Affleck's a Boston guy, and how he like the perception of like Ben Affleck, all of this like combined into like the most fascinatingly casted role I've seen in a long time. It to me is like a vehicle of like really fascinating, perverted, like odd marriage dynamics and like an examination of that and the people in it. And I fucking like love it. I love it. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I love this movie. I think it's incredible. Like everything. Do you have like an opinion on like the Ben Affleck stuff? Like, what are your like thoughts on that?
I think it's interesting because like during this time, wasn't his like divorce with Jennifer Gardner publicized?
I think around that time, like 2014. Yeah. Cause he goes from this to like being like Batman, basically.
Yes. And then like also like paralleling him reuniting with Rosamund Pike's with Amazing Amy in this. Like he goes, not saying that Jennifer Lopez is a murderer, but like he
allegedly.
Yeah. He goes back to Jennifer Lopez as well. Like, and then a lot of it has to do with like the publicity aspect of it. You have to would imagine. And I think what this movie does the best is the publicity aspects of a like a nationwide murder or scandal or missing persons case. How a lot of like what could be ruled in the court, whether this man gets a lethal injection or not, depends on how he does it in an interview.
Yeah.
Depends on how people feel about him in the public eye.
Yeah, the smile he has. Yeah.
The weird smile. Like that lady takes a selfie with him. like, and he just kind of like awkwardly goes along with it and then decides, no, it's probably not a good idea. But then that picture gets used later on to be like, oh, look, he's going on a date while his wife is missing.
Yeah.
So that's something that was really good. I think Ben Affleck is, even though like Rosamund Pike has more to do in this movie, I think Ben Affleck's performance is better.
That was my takeaway
'Cause,
too. Yeah, was like,
yes, he doesn't do all the shocking stuff, but like it's just like the little things that he does that are great. That being said, did you feel like, and I think a lot of this is purposeful because a lot of their flashback scenes are from the perspective of Rosamund Pike's of Amy's letter journal, which is also fabricated. Like, did you feel like there's any like weird like character contrasts that you didn't think were on purpose between like the way the relationship is shown in the flashbacks and the way that it's actually seen and their characters are actually seen in the present day? Because I feel like some of it was purposeful, but I feel like some of it was like, I feel like it got lost in its own.
Well, I think that's the point is like
intricacies.
they both like deceive each other in their who they are, and like both of them are putting on an act. I mean, we get that monologue with Amy where she's like, he wants the cool girl, like I drink beer and I watch sports games and like I do all this kind of stuff, and they're both like posturing to be the type of people that the other person thinks they want to appear as cool and as confident, when in reality, like most people are not that. Most people are like broken and insecure, and they can't be the cool, like amazing person every single day. And we see that early stage, and because she even admits in the diary, she's like, plague it with like truth, like the stuff where they are like young and like in love, and they have that intimacy because they're still pretending. And then once the money aspects hit and the real life aspects of it hit and they become comfortable with each other, it becomes that like a borderline, like abusive, like controlling, like unloving, lack of communication kind of like dynamic that we see. The reality of it is where we get the majority of the movie where you're just like, oh, you know, Ben Affleck probably is like he's not the best husband. And there's like a lot of different stuff here. I do think it's all purposeful. I think with knowing who David Fincher is as a director, where you hear these stories of like do 115 takes and like do all this everything, it seems like everything in that movie is deliberately done. There's I don't want to spoil The Killer, but a lot of the examination on who David Fincher is as a director comes through in The Killer. Kind of like a meta decontextualization of that he's aware. So it's very like interesting, but I do think it all is very deliberate. What gave you the indication that maybe like it wasn't? What from your like perspective did you think made it so?
I'd say like the whole thing of him being a writer doesn't feel like it really plays any significant role in the movie at all.
Yeah, I get that. I think it has to do with like giving him a vehicle to show that he is like not a very like a driving person. Like all of like kind of Olive like brought up a good point when we were watching it, where she's basically like he's like everybody has like a hand up his ass, basically. Like everybody's kind of like he reacts like to everything. Like everybody's kind of like controlling him in some capacity. He doesn't have a lot of that internal drive or like push or motivation. I mean, he's a creative writing teacher at like a local community college, right? And he owns a bar, but not really, because it's like you don't really see him
It's
ever.
owned by Amy's parents, and they gave it to him, the sister or something.
Yeah, but you never see him actually go to it. I know that like you start off with him, but like he comes in and like drinks like right away. Like there's a lot of that indication there. I think a lot of it just serves this character of that ultimate like ending where we get like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this 10-year-old movie. Oh God, 10-year-old movie. And like even older book, like massively popular book. Everybody owned this book. Everybody owned a copy of this book. Did you own a copy of this book?
No.
I did. I never read it. I made this be me. But when they eventually like come back and Amy comes back and they stay together, it's like these people are terrible people. Like both of them are. And they don't communicate and they play games and manipulate, and that's their marriage. That's their thing.
Yeah, I would just say, especially like with the early conversations between him and Amy, they just, again, it's probably on purpose as well, but like they're having very like almost like Woody Allen-esque dialogue. And it was pretty obnoxious, I thought. I didn't really like it, and I'm glad that I think later on I realized that it's because it's from Amy's, fraudulent perspective, fabricated perspective. But again, it just feels like there was almost like too much. It just seemed like there were character elements, even with Amy and like the Amazing Amy book series and stuff. It's none of it really. A lot of it didn't seem like it had as much of like an impact later on in the story. Whereas I feel like Girl and Dragon Tattoo, it's doing less of the characters, but ultimately, like in the conclusion, like it ends up doing more with them. Whereas here, again, I loved all the media stuff, but when it comes to like the actual like the plan to murder and like some of the flashback stuff and the character background stuff, it just didn't seem as necessary. It just seemed like they were things that the author was writing, and then without any like particular care of how it's going to pay off at the end, because it's more centered around like the exploitational stuff that happens later on.
I can see that, and I can see how you'd want like a through line. You're like, this stuff is introduced, but to me, it's all like character serving. It's an explanation as to why Amy is the way that she is. It's like this incredibly high standards and imbued upon her by her parents, where she fails at something in real life, and Amazing Amy becomes the amazing thing in the books, and she finds herself constantly comparing herself to the iteration of the character in the fictional Amazing Amy story, that she has to constantly live up to it, adapt her like who she is to become what Amazing Amy is. I do kind of like I do can understand kind of where you're coming from, but to me it's like it's all serves like the character vehicle itself of to why does she want to constantly be around the best people, like pushing everybody, like she doesn't like to be manipulated or deceived, or she thinks like burying Ben Affleck, she's like, he fucking like lied to me, like I thought he was this person, he's just like a lazy piece of shit kind of thing, like cheating on me, like it's one of those things, like a lot of it serves as like character depth that understands who, like why she's like crazy, like why not even crazy, but like why she is the way that she is. I thought it all like perfectly blended together. Like I was more impressed a lot with like the structure of the movie, the like the even like the transition of like the fade in fade out, and you get like the different color grading of like this like warmer like hue on the flashbacks where it was good, and then the cold gray calculated procedural like elements of like the modern time, I think are all like fascinating.
Yeah, I love it. I love the shot, the flashback shot of Amy catching Nick and the girlfriend coming out of the bar, and like all the snow's falling.
Yeah.
Like that was a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And Fincher is probably the best nighttime shooter
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
It's probably hard to compare to him. What did you think of? So like I really enjoyed Nick's character arc in this.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about Amy's stuff? Like once you realize that she is actually still alive and she's planning all this stuff, what do you think about her arc throughout the movie?
Fascinating, because there's like a lot of different stuff here, and I'm very curious to see what you think, because the whole like thing where she goes and stays in an apartment and like constantly like that calendar reveal where she's like kill myself, where she eventually like changed, like why should I die for this, like I want him to die kind of thing, but she ultimately like the naivete almost aspects of her character where the real like you view her as like this incredibly intelligent and like calculating person, but then faced with like the real world elements, almost she's like almost immediately like taken advantage of and like abused basically by other people, like beaten up and like robbed and stuff like that, and she has to resort back to like more manipulative like hidden tactics kind of thing. It's fascinating because to me, her like Ben Affleck stood out more on a rewatch, like on like my third watch. Like I know Rosamund Pike got like all of the love. Like initially, she was nominated for a best actress, supporting actress. She ultimately did not win. Julianne Moore for Still Alice, which is a movie I've never seen. I don't think anybody remembers.
Get it? Because she has
Yeah.
dementia in the movie.
Is that the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know I was making a joke.
Like, wow, a dementia joke, Tyler. We're really getting desperate on film frauds.
I didn't know I was making it. I don't know what the movie is. Your mic is just everywhere, isn't
Not
it?
working with me today.
Yeah, it's everywhere except for where it needs to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. What did you think? I'm curious because to me, she's not the standout of the movie anymore. At least in my eyes when I'm watching it.
I also feel like that's when the movie starts to get dumber.
What do you mean? Tell me more. What do you think?
Okay, so I think there's like a weird contrast between her being like really capable of reading people and her being like making utterly stupid decisions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, I'm not trying to be YMS. I understand that people don't act with 100% logic all the time. But I'm like, it's like I can see the writer being like, well, now she needs to get caught. So for no reason, now she's gonna bring her giant wad of cash to go mini golfing, and it's gonna accidentally fall out of her dress because the plot needs to happen. And she needs to get caught, and that's kind. And then all of a sudden she becomes a mastermind again, and then gets this guy to the ex-lover to bring her home, and then somehow knows where all the cameras are and exactly how to like intricately plan this rape and murder, so she can get off of it. There's just this weird contrast between her making mistakes, which I understand, like with characters and with villains, like they need to make it's okay for like a mastermind to make a mistake. But it just seemed more like for convenience sake when she makes mistakes and when she's like a competent mastermind. Like, does that make sense?
It does. I can understand where you're coming from, and I think it all is like. I think for me, the examination of like who Amy is, I think comes through how she's able to manipulate people within her like sphere. I mean, Desi Collins, which we have to probably talk about some of the casting choices in this movie. Specifically like Tyler Perry and probably Neil Patrick Harris. Who did you ever watch How I Met Your Mother? That show?
I've seen episodes.
I've seen the whole show. It's really fascinating that he's in this movie, and I want to figure that out.
This is like at the height of How I Met Your Mother.
Is it 2014? I can
Yeah, I
maybe.
think so.
But basically, like she's able to manipulate people who are like either kind of like already under control or at least like even maybe more like banal like socio like cultural perspective of it. Like she's able to manipulate people like within her own like economic class. I mean, she's able to manipulate Ben Affleck, and you look at like the house they're in, and she's clearly like extremely wealthy from the Amazing Amy stuff. And but the moment she goes out into the real world, she's immediately like outsmarted by someone who has experienced like probably like the harsh realities of the day to day. Who is me like you're not who you are. Like I can tell like this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. I'm there every time. And you're right, like she stupidly brings a lot of money out to this, and that people like they immediately recognize it and they're like, we're just gonna rob her. Like, why would we not? She's clearly hiding. Who's she gonna report to the police? Like she's immediately out manipulated by people who have this like real world fake experience, which I think then like illuminates some of the aspects of like the marriage. Like she like between her and Ben Affleck, the communication, the manipulation, the whole like gamifying of it in a way is like really like it shows how it's like in this bubble, like how it's in this like fascinating little like world, and then as soon as she branches out into the real world, it's like falls apart like almost immediately too. Like immediately she's like, I don't trust you. Like the person is like, yeah, like fuck this amazing like Amy person. Like it's very fascinating. It's a very look. What, like I know you said you're like thought it was convenient. Was that like your biggest issues with the movie, or was there like other stuff outside of that?
I would say it's like biggest issue with the movie, and like I don't sound like I'm dogging on it, 'cause like I think it's like a solid like 4 out of 5 stars.
Yep.
Just to clarify, I think it's a really great movie. It just compared to like the best of Fincher, it just doesn't seem like it's in the same ballpark as the best of Fincher. Like with like the really intelligent like Zodiac, Girl with a Tattoo, Seven, like like crime procedurals
Hmm.
and stuff. It doesn't seem like it has like that focus. And it seems like a lot of like it seems like Fincher does what he can to like make it seem more intelligent than it is. But then I think it does a couple things really, really well, like the character of Nick, the media, and like the ending. I think the ending is amazing. I know the end. Some people don't like the ending. I love the ending to the
People don't
movie.
like the ending.
I've seen like some reviews because I was going back in time to see
Yeah.
like Gone Girl reviews and stuff. And I don't think I particularly liked the ending when I first saw it, but now that I've seen it, like I think it's a great ending.
Yeah.
When Amy looks at him, and he's like, "What's going on behind those eyes?" Like you feel like the horror, the existential dread. It's like Cthulhu. Like you just can't, you don't know what's going on. You cannot possibly proceed because he's always planning something,
Yeah.
and you can never feel safe with her around. But you still do it anyways because he feels like this weird like obligation from like a social status standpoint to keep it going. All the stuff I thought was really fascinating and really well done, and not necessarily something had to be explained to the audience. And they did a really good job of showing but not telling there.
Yeah. Is that like I'm also like really curious because I do am in agreement, and David Fincher has this really like at least like this era of like Girl with a Dragon Tattoo and Gone Girl have really like surprisingly similar endings where the main narrative is revealed, but then you have like 20 minutes after, like it's all said and done with like the recap. You see the impact of the story and the events of the narrative on the characters. I mean, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it ends with like Rooney Mara's character, Elizabeth Salander, like accepting someone into her life with Daniel Craig, Mikhail Blomkvist. Like they had this connection, and she goes and like buys him something. Like she buys him like a gift, like to show like a connection that she has not had previously in the entire movie, only to see that the reality of the situation is not what it appears, and that
Yeah.
he cannot give up the affair that he has with his longtime partner, and she ultimately trashes the thing, and they go their separate ways. And I'm assuming, considering in The Girl Who Played with Fire, their relationship has not reconciled. That is probably a narrative through line that continues throughout the 3 books until I imagine they reconcile or something happens in the third one. I've never read it, so who knows? Maybe I did. Who knows? But like in the end of Gone Girl, it's Amy comes back from Desi's place, and you see like the reality that they're trapped in, where you have to live with the consequences of the actions that like Ben Affleck cannot escape. She is a kidnapped, like raped wife who came back to him, and now she's pregnant, and but like weirdly he stays because his life has no purpose. But now the kid, he like has a purpose. He has a motivation to kind of keep going, and they're stuck in this like game of cat and mouse and like deceit and lies, but they're together because they like weirdly work together because of that. That's who they are. And these two, like David Fincher is able to like reconcile with like these things happen, but like how do they impact the people that's actually like doing it? And I haven't read Gone Girl, so I don't know if that's in the ending, but I mean that's the ending of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I wonder if like Fincher is like drawn to something like that. I don't know. I'm not friends with him. I'm not out there calling him David. Hey, David. Dave.
So what you call him the Finch?
The Finch man. Yeah. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
Finch man. What's up, bud? What's up, sport?
So you want to talk about the casting of Tyler Perry and Neil
Well,
Patrick Harris?
I wonder where you think about it, because
Tyler Perry gives one of the best performances of all time. He is literally phenomenal in this movie. It's a shame that he decided to go back doing his crap comedies, because he is so good in this movie. A trained monkey who escapes lethal injection, like things like that. He plays the d-bag lawyer really, really well. I love, like, he's so charismatic, but it's kind of like what you're talking about with like in the First Reformed episode, or like comedic actors like Ray Romano and Paddleton and
Yeah.
Cedric the Entertainer in First Reformed, when they're put in like serious roles and they're not being funny, they're just being like charismatic and likable there. And it really they give really unique performances, and like performances that make sense. Like it makes sense that Cedric the Entertainer in First Reformed is like the head priest of this huge conglomerate, because he's a likable guy and you want to assume the best, and you believe that Tyler Perry is like the suave, like high profile lawyer who gets bad people off of, even though like even all even stacked against him, he's just that good.
Yep.
And you believe it because he's a background at being comedic. And so I think he's amazing in this movie, and I think Neil Patrick Harris is really good as well. I know, like in How I Met Your Mother, he plays like a ladies' man, so here him playing like this like social outcast, obsessive type is pretty funny, and like kind of a role reversal from what you would expect for him to do. I think they're both really good, but I think Tyler Perry is like leagues better.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like you're 100%. We're just like, you're like, I like this guy. Like he comes on the screen, and he's also like the weird, like, I mean, like you said in First Reformed, like Cedric the Entertainer, where they come in and they're almost like a breath of relief. Where you're like, oh, like I can breathe. Like these movies, like Gone Girl is a dour movie. It does not, it goes and goes and goes. There's no breaks, there's no reprieve. But whenever Tyler Perry comes on and he's just like talking with him or walking him through, where he's like, just for your, like, just so you know, you're not a handwriting expert. Like those kind of lines where you're like, oh, like it allows the audience to like take a deep breath. You're like, oh, okay.
Or like him throwing the gummy bears at Nick whenever he says something wrong.
Yeah, he's like, every time you come up as like a douche or whatever, like he throws a gummy bear, you're like, oh, okay, like it also feels like weirdly like the adults are in the room. I get that way anytime whoever plays the cop, where where you're just like, you're like, these people
Nick,
yeah. That was a good impression.
Thanks.
It feels like you're in this like cat and mouse game between Nick and Amy, where you're just like, aren't you guys like adults, like communicate kind of thing. But then like the real adults come in the room, like the sense of like logic and reason, and you're like, I can breathe. And it is this like procedural element of it that makes make these movies like infinitely rewatchable. I agree. I'm less so on Neil Patrick Harris. I just looked it up while you were talking. How I Met Your Mother ended in 2014. So this was like, How I Met Your Mother ended with a really controversial, pretty bad ending. I don't give a shit enough about the show to really care about the ending that much. It doesn't ruin my day. I really like the show. I think it's weird. I think it's odd. I don't know if it works, and it's a little distracting, but that kind of makes it work, because it feels like the art of this movie is in the casting. A lot of it is. And I don't know if I 100% am like on board with the Neil Patrick Harris casting.
Him being so rich was weird. Like he seemed like the kind of guy who would live in like a 1 floor suburban home.
Yeah.
Not the kind of guy who would be like a like a. It seems like Tyler Perry should own that kind of house, like suave businessman kind of guy, and like they get this like weird creepy guy who has this really nice house, and
Yeah.
that felt like very like fictional, I guess, like something that like a writer would do.
Yeah.
So
And I yeah,
as like and it doesn't really make any sense. And it's like it's just a means to have a really elaborate way so they can show out how smart Amy is, like solving the cameras and everything. Um, which even then they don't really specify like why there's only cameras in specific areas that are convenient for the
there are
for
cameras
her
everywhere.
to,
Did you see like there are cameras everywhere? Like they
but there aren't
showed me
cameras to catch her pouring
because
red
it's
wine on her.
because it's a camera, not like there's no cameras inside, it's cameras outside. The shot from the outside is looking in to make sure they're protected.
But I thought there were cameras inside as
No,
well.
it's
I'm
all
missing.
outside.
It's all
It's all
outside.
outside.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to go back? Like, I mean, do you have like a Ring camera at your house?
No,
I
I don't have
have.
any cameras. I don't
Oh,
have any outside cameras either.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not worried about people inside my house. I'm worried about the people outside my
What if someone
house.
goes inside the house though?
Who's gonna get inside my house if I don't see them outside? Actually, just don't rob me, anybody. But my Ring camera is currently more of a decoration right now. Well, okay, real quick. I completely off topic. If you buy a Ring camera, anybody who's listening, they fuck you over because they for the first like month they're like, you get it for free. And then they actually have the gall. I paid $100 for a Ring camera to charge you a subscription price to see like recorded video. Yeah, they want me to like pay
Wow.
monthly. And then my thing also needs to be charged, but I don't know where the wire is, so I have to figure that out. But no, I don't have my fucking Ring camera facing inside. I know what I do inside. I don't need to see me like walk around butt ass naked. I don't need to see that on my phone. Like get a notification that's like I just see my like ass out at like 8:30 in the morning. I'm good. Do you?
It's too many images right now.
Me just walking around butt ass naked with a camera.
Yeah, okay, we got it. You said that 3 times now.
Do you know that you can actually like share a Ring camera footage with somebody? I'll put a Ring camera inside my apartment and then share with you the footage so you can see me walk around.
No.
Okay. I just want to give you the
I
heads
won't. I won't look at it.
up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like Neil Patrick Harris is weird, and he's the only one that takes me out of the movie.
Okay.
It's hard to separate because he comes from a more like I've never seen him in a dramatic role. He can do dramatic in How I Met Your Mother. He's good at it. But like I've always known him as like the high energy, like he does like musical stuff and he does like all this kind of stuff. I know him from that. So it was a little weird. And I don't know if he 100% fits in the world.
What do you think of his climactic scene?
Just it's shocking on a first watch and not that shocking on other watches, as evident. It's really fascinatingly made.
I love the slow. It's like almost like a heartbeat, like fading in and out.
Yeah,
like, that was pretty interesting design.
It's pretty. It's still like one of those things of you're like watching it and you're like, it's coming, and you just know it's coming.
Literally.
Yeah. A lot of like coming in like butt jokes in this one.
Yeah.
Do you see Ben Affleck's penis in this
And
movie?
dementia jokes as well.
And dementia jokes, yeah.
Tyler thinks dementia is funny.
I do not. Don't print that. I mean, yeah, it's like it's visually like the entire movie. Like we haven't like talked entirely detail about like the visual elements of this movie just yet, but like the movie like looks phenomenal. And you're right, the little style of like the coming in and out and the music like swelling like a heartbeat in and out. It's actually a really good observation there. Yeah, I love it. Like, do you like what do you like? I know we've talked about like visual elements of it, but like I don't think we've talked about it enough. Like David Fincher and visuals, nice. Like
It's one of the things where it's like you can't like every scene is amazingly shot, and we as non-directors we can't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like the scene with the cat, like when all the like the lights from the photographs hit the cat.
Yeah.
Like little things like that are just so good. And like when Amy's like covered in like dust and Nick like this like brushes it off of her lips, it's so much talent. It takes so much talent that we can't appreciate in every scene to like make a David Fincher movie. And so yeah, it's like what can I say other than the whole movie is incredibly beautifully shot.
Do you think like I don't want to be like, hey, what are your rankings?
And you see Ben Affleck's penis. So,
you do see Ben Affleck's penis and his ass. He's in good shape.
Yeah.
Good for him. Do you think if you were to like do a tentative, like where would you put this around your David Fincher movies? Would you put this as one of the lower ends? Would you put this like mid tier? Like how do you kind of
I think mid tier.
Mid tier for you?
Definitely
what's
not definitely better than the game, definitely better than Alien 3, definitely better than the Mank.
The Mank.
The Mank. So yeah, it's above all those.
Okay. What's your favorite scene in this movie? Do you have a favorite scene?
My favorite scene. I don't know.
I kind of came at you unprompted on that one.
Yeah, I gotta think about it. Oh, I think maybe like when Nick is about to do the interview,
Yep.
like all that, and then like him showing the interview after, where there's like a lot of like character layers there, where it's like where he's BSing, and Ben Affleck's performance is fantastic here
Yeah.
because you feel like the character is BSing as well, but also playing it very authentic too. He
Yeah.
really balances that super well. And it's probably because he's done it in real life as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
with like like all those Hollywood magazines and stuff.
Yeah.
So that I would say is probably the best sequence.
Okay.
For me.
I would say probably the first interrogation was the one that stood out where they're like, "Who's your wife's friends?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know." And
Yeah.
he's like, "You don't know what your wife does." He's like, what does she do in the day to day? He's like,
She likes to read.
she likes to read. She's around the house. They're like, "Do you not know what your wife does?" And he's like, man, I don't know. And
What's your wife's blood type? So
yeah,
you're telling me you don't know your your
but
wife
that
has a few friends, what she does during the day, and you don't know your wife's blood type?
how'd you memorize that? That's fucking good.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know what's your blood? I don't know my blood type. Like, I don't know my own
I think
blood.
it's like B positive or something.
I don't know what mine is.
Tyler's gonna be bleeding out.
Bad.
You're like, sir, what's your blood type?
I text
XQ positive.
They're like,
He's gonna die.
they give me the wrong one. I just implode. I texted my mom. I was like, "What's my blood type?" And she's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Okay." I was like, then nobody will know unless I go to a hospital. I'm like, "What's my blood type?" Yeah, no. I mean, that entire
I'm
scene.
Kryptonian.
Just give me whatever. Just put little juice in me. No, I figured. I mean, it's all the Ben Affleck stuff. Like anything with Ben Affleck in this movie, I know he's the lead. It's kind of interesting when we talk about is this like a modern classic in a second. We have probably like an interesting amount to examine here. But why don't we do that? Is this a modern classic in your eyes? Because there is a lot to probably break down in this one because maybe.
So even though I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, I think it's really good. And even though I accept that it's going to have a longer legacy than The Girl with Dragon Tattoo, it's better regard than The Girl with Dragon Tattoo. I'm still would maybe say no because I think that House of Cards is like especially around the time it came out was like more of a thing than Gone Girl. I don't think there's too much conversation around Gone Girl. I know Rosamund Pike had a very like he had a spike in her career from this, but now she's doing like a really crappy fantasy show on Amazon Prime that nobody watches. David Fincher again is like more likely going to be remembered for the Social Network
And Fight Club and Seven, Zodiac.
Seven, those movies. And Ben Affleck wasn't elevated by this movie, I don't think.
So this is interesting because this was a massive book. Like
Yes.
this book was everywhere, and this book was popular before the movie came out and was even more popular after the movie came out. It is a 2 hour and 40-minute hard R movie. Let me look up real quick the box office because I'm kind of curious if this movie made money. Because that one I think would know. I don't know what the budget is in this movie, but it was I know you're saying no. I'm leaning more towards yes, but I don't. I need like, wow, this movie made so much fucking money. Holy shit. It had a budget of 61 million. It made 370 million worldwide. It was a rated R off a book. That's a lot of money. So here's the thing. So first we have to look at David Fincher. David Fincher he made Mindhunter. He basically started creating House of Cards, which spawned like Netflix and Netflix originals. Mank, nope. Girl Dragon Tattoo is a fucking awesome movie, but nope, because that movie made no money and did not spawn sequels. The Social Network is interesting. I don't know what the long-term, more outside of film discourse legacy.
I feel like it's more relevant because of Mark Zuckerberg is still a huge hot button issue.
Yeah,
and like that Bro Chanel did a video a couple months ago where it was like, can we still enjoy the social network, like knowing like what Facebook has become today, and that video got like millions of views. I think the social network is still like a huge movie.
You think so? Okay.
And like Jesse Eisenberg's career was kickstarted from that. Andrew Garfield, Justin Timberlake was taken seriously as an actor because of that. David Fincher had a bit of a career renaissance. He was doing crime movies for the most part. And then he comes up with this like character study.
He wasn't doing crime movies for the most part. I mean, he at that point it was like Panic Room. He had done like
Zodiac,
Zodiac,
Seven.
but he did like Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Like he was a renowned director. I mean, I do think like out of this like post 2010, I mean Zodiac. I mean, Social Network's my favorite movie. One of my favorite movies ever. It's my favorite David Fincher movie. I don't want to spoil it. I don't even think like it's fucking awesome. The combination of like him and Sorkin, but like Girls and Tragedy 2, no. Gone Girl is interesting because it recontextualizes Ben Affleck. I mean, Ben Affleck rises in stardom. He becomes Batman, but then he also like Batman.
He was already a star. He was already
a star.
He just won an Oscar for Argo.
Oh, he did do Argo, but this was in like trend of like he had done Gone Baby Gone, Argo. He did The Town too, but he was like a serious like this was that cap, and then he became Batman, and then he's now kind of back to doing like more dramatic roles. It seems. Rosamund Pike, yes. Like. But like the impact of this is like, how is this movie aged in like 8 years? Do people still talk about Gone Girl? What discourse are we finding out about Gone Girl?
I go on r/slash movies semi frequently, and I like personally don't see a lot of Gone Girl discourse.
So you think this is like David Fincher is going to be remembered as one of the best modern filmmakers, maybe one of the better filmmakers we ever had? But Gone Girl will not be in the echelon of those. Like when we think of David Fincher, we think of Fight Club, Seven, Zodiac.
I think it'll be remembered because of David Fincher and not because of it being Gone Girl.
Interesting. You think it because of the ties too? I want to say no, but I want to put an asterisk to revisit in the coming months, especially. I want to put an asterisk to revisit after The Killer because I want to do some more research.
I would say so.
I'm gonna put.
I'm still at a no.
Okay.
But depending on how The Killer, if it rejuvenates talk about David Fincher, like maybe it'll start popping up again. But like, I don't know. There's just so many heavy hitters for David Fincher that it's hard for it. And then like again, like I don't think anyone was. Only Rosamund Pike was elevated really by this movie. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because I don't want to say like. The Killer release has been weird because it's technically out in theaters in a wide release, but Netflix is not promoting it. They're just kind of threw it in some theaters and they're like, it's coming out on Netflix. Like, good luck. Like, I'm able to see it because I'm in a major market area. Like, fucking Massachusetts. Like,
there's one in Cambridge.
So in Boston.
They're showing in Cambridge. I'm not going to go an hour plus out to watch it.
Yeah, so it's in Boston, but I'm in like a major area where it's playing in like a couple theaters around. You're right. Like, it was a major movie at the time. Super big, super popular. But in terms of like, is it popular because David Fincher? So I'm going to say
it's a movie that's going to define the 2010s. Like Gone Girl. Is Gone Girl going to define the 2010s?
No, but is it in my opinion, it's one of the better
movies. What movies were influenced by Gone Girl after it came out?
I mean, Gone Girl spawned the whole like thriller, like mystery kind of thing. There was like a genre.
There were already mystery thrillers coming out.
Yeah, but like that, like murder, like David Fincher style, like The Girl on the Train. Like, do you remember that movie?
Vaguely.
But yeah, like those movies spawned and were like created because of the success of the Gone Girl book. But maybe that's the thing with the book is more like if you think of like popular modern pieces of media, the Gone Girl book is probably more popular than the Gone Girl movie, which is interesting. So, okay, I'm going to say no with an asterisk until you see The Killer. That'll be my thing.
Okay.
And then we can maybe revisit it on our bonus episode of The Killer. No way. Spoiler alert. That's muted. Michael Fassbender, the movie. Let me just say,
no.
Okay, thank you. Matt, this was fun. How do we end these? Because I'm not good at these. You end it. You're the man in charge here. How do we end this? What do you do?
If you liked listening to this podcast, why not leave 5-star review, preferably. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Plus and YouTube, and our Letterboxd accounts are going to be in the description below, so you can follow us. You can see Tyler watch 5 movies a day, and then say he didn't have time to watch Night of the Living Dead. But that's besides the point. I'm not holding any grudges at all. Why would you think that?
Comment about my mustache.
Us know what movies you think are modern classics, so we'll not talk about them because we already have like 5 months of movies planned out.
Yeah, we already know what we're doing. You can find us everywhere, basically, on Apple and Spotify. Those are the major ones. I don't think anybody really listens to podcasts outside of that. But yeah, rate us. Say something about my mustache. Should I keep
Yeah,
it?
upload the YouTube version then.
Yeah, I will upload the YouTube version so you can comment on my mustache. Say nice things about my mustache, please. Matt won't ever shower me with nice compliments. Matt, this was fun. What movie you're gonna watch next? What are we watching next? We already spoiled
The
it.
Killer.
The Killer, yeah. The Killer's next week. Killer releases on the 10th. Are you excited to watch it? Like, are you like
I am so excited.
actually like genuinely?
I'm legitimately excited to watch it.
Are you going to like
I love David Fincher. I really enjoy Gone Girl.
Yeah.
I love a lot of his other movies.
Okay.
Just Mank was a big old turd.
Big old Mank was when you're watching Mank, you're like, this movie fucking sucks.
I just go on a little trepidation now because after I saw Mank, I'm like, okay, this man is actually mortal after all because that movie was garbage.
Okay. This is what I'm really curious about. I won't say anything about The Killer. I just really am fucking excited for your thoughts on it. I'm so
Don't say anything.
I'm not. I logged it on Letterboxd. I just need you to tell me your thoughts on it soon. So when it comes out, are you watching it that Friday or Saturday, do you think, when it comes out?
I'll probably watch it that Friday because I have Friday off.
For your work?
It's Veterans Day.
Do I have Friday off?
I don't know.
Oh my God, I might have Friday off. You get Friday off for your work?
Yeah.
That's fucking sick.
I have Tuesday. I have a professional development day on Tuesday as well. So I'll have to see.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I have only 3 actual school days this week. So I'm kind of excited.
Hated professional development days. Hated them. Because I was like, no kids are here. Why do I have to be here? This is stupid. I'm going to professionally develop in the classroom. Not my some stupid fucking.
Professionally develop these nuts.
All right. Well, Matt, we're going to go watch some football. Not you and me, but we're going to go see how the Patriots are doing. Matt, this was fun. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you again next week for The Killer. And goodbye.